I'm Harry Siemens, coming to you from the Manitoba Ag Days 2019. Yes, 42 years ago, it was a weed fair here in the Manitoba room in Brandon. And then, of course, it went to Winnipeg. But this time around, we're talking to various exhibits and farmers and special guests and speakers. And it's just a pleasure to be able to do it in this kind of format. Yes, from the Manitoba Ag Days 2019. Hi, I'm Harry Siemens, and we're coming to you from the Manitoba Ag Days 2019. Now I'm visiting with the Murray Hunter, who works with Mandako, and they, of course, are one of our show sponsors, and it's great to have you with us, Murray. And I've grown up with what used to be J.R. Welding with John Reddicup and so forth, because I come from Plum Coulee, and it's been an interesting to watch what John will do next. And so tell me what you do with Mandako.
Well, I'm the sales rep for Western Canada, so I work on behalf of Mandako, work with the dealers and with farmers and so on, and help John and his crew take care of the product. But like you're saying, that they start from very humble beginnings, and they've grown significantly a lot to now they're the largest land roller manufacturer. And a lot of that is just grassroots. Keep it simple, give you a good value for the dollar, price it fair. The rest will take care of itself. Treat people the way you expect to be treated, and that recipe has certainly worked and continues to work. And even this age of technology, you're still dealing on your word and good value.
And that's exactly how I know John. And at the same time, I remember, when markers were the business. I did a video with him on the markers. Then, of course, when technology advanced, then all of a sudden those manual physical markers were out of date.
When he came out with those markers, there's nothing quite as good as those markers, but GPS was coming in at the same time, and suddenly it went way to the dodo bird very quickly. And in a way, it's too bad, but one thing that's always constant is change.
Then I also remember doing the next one, and that was with the land roller. I remember working with that one, and that seems to be the bread and butter, isn't it?
It is our bread and butter primary focus, but we've also expanded. We've been growing out the line and the company. We're much more than land rollers now. That we've been doing vertical tillage machines for quite a while, and we're on our third generation of them. But also, we've worked long and hard developing chisel plow, and we had some help from. We didn't design it all ourselves. We had some help from a living legend like Terry Frigstad, who's Flexicoil fame, that he helped us greatly. And to watch John and Waldemar and Terry work together is a rarity, because these guys were on the same page so very quickly. That just doesn't happen.
No, you're absolutely right. And so, yeah, let's talk a little bit about, from land rollers to the kind of products that he's now working.
Well, we felt there's a need to help manage the residue and size it, and just with some tillage and that too, with the vertical tillage, and we've kind of taken a few extra steps. And of course, as we've been at it longer, we like to think we've got a little better at it, and a couple new ideas come up that we kind of work into the equation, and it's certainly been rewarding with a chisel plow, that we felt that there's an element of people out there that they wanted chisel plows, not necessarily wanted this high speed stuff. They wanted to go deeper, and they actually wanted chisels, and nobody really done anything with them for a long time, and it was time to kind of look at it, reopen that page, and there's a pent-up demand for it. And we took our time and made sure we had it right, and when we're working with some very experienced designers, but also with Mandako, some very experienced fabricators, it just went together very well. And the end product, you be the judge. It's worked out very well.
So when you take 2 or 3 or 4 of those pieces of equipment, the land roller and the chisel and the other one. Do they ever get used on the same field?
It has in some applications, but if a guy's doing pre-work or doing fall work and that, but generally after they're done seeding and or whether you're using a planter or air drill or whatever the case, rolling, they're rolling, and it's not just to pound rocks in the ground or pound stubble down. It's also seed to soil contact, and it's guys are starting to figure out now that the germinations come up stronger, and that does help the bottom line.
So where then does the chisel fit in?
A lot of fall work applications, but also element of guys that maybe they're not doing it so much for pre-work or fall work, but they're wanting for anhydrous rigs. Or you're getting, where a lot of the anhydrous retailers, their units are worn out, they're not replacing them because it's the fatigue and the price and insurance. And you're having also a lot of guys who have such a big footprint of acreage themselves that they want some rental. They just need one of their own, so they can hitch on, and so the retailer can just bring the fertilizer bullets out and they can do it that way. So we're getting that element, and also just your guys are still doing conventional where they're doing some summer follow and pre-work, and every region's a little different. Some guys hardly touch it all. Some guys are very tillage intensive. We're trying to fit the varying needs where it is.
I remember my father, 1,000-acre farmer in 1960, and he thought he was doing the best at that time, and I think we called something like recreational tilling because we didn't quit. Fuel was cheap, his labor was cheap, like myself, and we didn't quit until the snow fell. But that, of course, all of that has changed.
Well, it has changed, and long-suffering farm boys like myself, that I did a lot of that recreational tillage too, as a teenager, and that if you got in a little late at night, you knew you were doing summer fall the next day. But costs do change, and we do have to watch the bottom line. And when we look at the cost per acre and what we're doing and the amount of acres that we're doing now on today's farms, your bottom line is ever so important. It's always been a thin margin game for us. So we have to be smart about this. And if we're not, and your bottom line gets eroded, you won't be in business very long, not profitable anyway. So we're trying to give you equipment that is pertinent to today. Some of the stuff is yesterday's technology. We're just applying a little smarter today and maybe a little different twist to the game, but it's all necessary or we wouldn't do it.
One other question and it comes to mind is size. You're getting air seeders, you're getting different things wider and wider and wider. Are you to a point where it kind of this is where it's going to go?
Well, never say never. I don't. Just when you thought that's about as wide as you can get it, somebody will prove you wrong. But there are some limits of common sense and affordability and functionality. But it's not just bigger that Mandako now, we're just not dealing Western Canada and Eastern Canada. We're dealing, and through the States, we're dealing worldwide. We're dealing a lot in Australia. We're dealing in Europe a bit. We're shipping some units into South America. There's various sizes. Like our land rollers, our smallest one is 8 feet. Our largest is 85. So there's many different sizes in between that. And it's to fit different wants, needs, etc. So it's not just all bigger for us. We have to pay attention to what other regions may require, and that's not necessarily the biggest.
One final word to wrap this up?
Well, we've, out of Plum Coulee, like we're saying, we've grown from some humble beginnings and we've grown through the years, but a lot of that we like to think we've done by listening to the farmers and listening to the dealers and helping them do their job better and give them equipment that'll do it. We went from a small company to now we're about 60 staff, and a lot of that is thanks to support of the farmers and our dealers. Like we've got some very good dealers in our regions, and they're very loyal and they're very smart, and they're the ones that actually go out and sell this stuff, and we have to thank those guys too. Our success is their success.
Okay, thank you very much.
You bet.
That was Murray Hunter.
Yes.
from Mandako. And, I used to know it as JR Welding, and of course they've come a long way, and we really appreciate the work that John Reddicup and his staff have done for agriculture in not just Manitoba, but as Murray just said, around the world. Such a great industry to serve. So once again, Mandako is one of the sponsors of our show. We appreciate that. And here we are from the Manitoba Ag Days 2019 in Brandon, Manitoba.
At Super 8 Winnipeg West, we have your comfort in mind with free Wi-Fi and free daily Superstart breakfast. We also have guest laundry facilities, a state-of-the-art fitness center, and a jetted hot tub. Sleep well in a spacious guest room equipped with plush new bedding, a 50-inch flat-screen HD TV, microwave, mini refrigerator, and Keurig coffee maker. Or book a suite with a kitchen, ideal for extended stays. Super 8 Winnipeg West, located just inside the perimeter on Portage Avenue.
Hi, I'm Harry Siemens, and I'm coming to you from Manitoba Ag Days 2019, and it's such a pleasure to visit with the various exhibitors. And today I'm with Chris Sobchuk, Bushel Plus, and just such a great story. And I know I've written the story, I've heard about it from the owner. Tell me how it started.
Yeah, Bushel Plus basically started way back, I'm going to say probably about 8 years ago, back in Germany and Russia area, where Marcel Kringa, the actual inventor of the product, actually came up with the idea when one of the co-workers almost got ran over by one of the combines. So as a lot of farmers do, they go ahead and they throw a pan or hold a shovel, and then they try to run to get away from all that dust and dirt. Well, one of the guys unfortunately fell down and tripped and almost got ran over. Someone that was with them said, look guys, you guys have to find a better way to doing this, because sooner or later someone's going to get killed, right? We all know the value and the importance of basically checking your combine loss as well too, because if you don't, you're throwing a lot of money in the basically back in the field, right? So that's basically how it started.
I'm going to tell just a little story about my dad was a 1,000-acre grain farmer in 1960. And he would put me in the combine. I would steer the combine. He would get back underneath with his hat and try and make sure he'd stay out of the wheel, right? And the combines weren't that big, so there wasn't that much room. So I understand fully what this system means. But tell me how it works.
Well, the system is very simple and easy. We use basically permanent magnets that are located on top of the actual drop pan system. It's a hooded design, so the actual sample pan is actually nestled underneath of it. So it's attached onto various areas of your combine. It could be your rear axle, it could be your feeder house, it could even be off of your header itself. This allows you to basically check your losses in different areas. And the really nice thing about it is you actually use a similar device to a key fob to basically press the button to deploy the actual drop pan. So that allows the farmers to basically be in a safe, clean environment, and they don't have to basically get ran over by the actual combine. So once the actual sample is basically tested and picked up in the sample pan, then you have to clean it out. So instead of sitting there with sieves for 15, 20 minutes, we now have what we call an air separator. Air separator, you dump everything in from that sample pan into it, you turn on the fan, it blows out all the MOG materials other than grain, but keeps the heavier grain and that stuff on the inside. We now have clean grain within 15, 20 seconds. We go ahead, we scale it, figure out what the weight is down to 1/10 of a gram, and because we know the weight of what came out of the grain for the sample pan, we know the weight of a bushel, and we know the size of the pan and know the size of an acre, we can now basically figure out what your losses are for that particular combine settings. So if you're happy with the settings, you can go ahead and put it all within your phone app and then basically save those settings so that next time you come across that next year, you have those exact settings that you can kind of set it up with. Now, you can save it for different conditions because we have the normal days, we have the tough days, we've got the easy days, we got all sorts of different conditions. So the system allows you to save a number of different basically samples for a variety of different crops. There's no charts, it's all basically inputted into your phone, so it makes it very quick and easy. So if your product is quick, easy, and fast, people are going to use it and love it. And we've got a number of guys that have basically saved, well over $55,000 to $20,000, or sorry, $55,000 to $70,000 in canola from basically going back into the field.
I know we focus on the safety aspect of it because that's human nature and that's life, right? But I remember my father, when he would get that back on his knees, he would put out that square and see how many kernels had actually gone over, because he liked to, if he was going to grow the crop, he wanted to get as much of that crop as he possibly could, and he was good at it. So this just absolutely safety. But as you mentioned, tell me a little bit more about how the farmers, I know I've interviewed farmers and how much they actually save, because then all of a sudden it doesn't cost anything getting this to your combine.
Right, so the profitability is the big thing for the farmers. They all have exactly the same input costs and everything else that you're basically doing in order to get that crop. Everybody goes, they always calibrate their air seeder, but when it comes basically to harvest time, it's just been basically recently that we've come out with a quick, easy design that makes it easy for them to calibrate their combines, getting to be more and more important. So obviously with different varieties, different crops, you have different settings you have to basically do with it. We've got guys that have said, embarrassingly say we've been throwing over 10 bushels an acre, and they're able to get it down to basically a bushel or less. And really the target number is a bushel or less. There's a number of different things you can do as a farmer in order to decrease your losses as well too. That could be changing your concaves internally. It could be basically changing your wind speed. Obviously changing your ground speed as well too is very important as well. So there's a number of things that they can do in order to save those bushels, right?
I remember also there was our neighbor had the same combine that we had, and he always finished a lot sooner on the same field. He was done, and my dad says, you know what? Let's wait till fall and see what his field looks like compared to what our field. And you know what? He always had a thick crop already, green in fall, and Dad only had a little.
So right there and there, he's got to basically put more input costs in order to kill off all that crop and that stuff that he doesn't want to be there, because he's rotating it to something different. So that's just not saving bushels, it's also saving dollars of input costs you have to basically utilize as well too. So excellent point.
Any last thing you want to say?
Well, I just want to basically say, you make sure you guys are basically validating your losses and that stuff on your combines. If you're combining basically dropping, then test dropping. If you're combining spreading, test spreading. Don't assume that when you're basically doing it on a drop, that once you flick that switch, you're going to have the same loss results as what you did droppage when you're spreading. That's a big false. I don't think that's true. A lot of the guys that are in the industry and basically do a lot of analysis will basically back us up on that. I just want to wish everybody a great harvest 2019. Let's build the best crop ever, guys.
Thank you very much, Chris Sobchuk with Bushel Plus team. And as I told the fellas working with me when I walked up to here, I really find this as one of the real key tools, because it brings it home, as I've already mentioned, as to how my father would get behind that and underneath that combine. So this removes that. So once again, save money, calibrate the combine, but first and foremost, it's also very safety conscious. So thanks again, Chris.
Thanks, Harry.
This is Harry Siemens from Manitoba Ag Days 2019.
Hi, I'm Rick Funk from Funk's Toyota. Our family has been in the automotive business for over 45 years. That's 45 plus years of looking after customers. We have a top worldwide recognized product that we are proud to be a partner with Toyota Canada. Every new and used vehicle is negotiable when it comes to purchasing your vehicle here at Funk's Toyota. Our staff of many years is very knowledgeable and will help you, not force you with your buying decision. There are no hidden fees and no pressure tactics. Not only that, we promise what we deliver and have one of the best used vehicle warranties in the business. Our staff love to serve, and you will feel like family after your first visit. We are not perfect, but we love to please here at Funk's Toyota. For those of you that have experienced our Funk's Toyota family way, please share it with others and like us and share us on Facebook. We are proud to be a sponsor of the Manitoba Amateur Sports. Visit us online at www.funks.toyota.ca.
Hi, I'm Harry Siemens, and we're here from Manitoba Ag Days 2019. Today, this particular time, Never Spill Spout, a full bin alarm. John Guerra. You know, years ago, we had a chance to visit, and it's been many years ago, and today I'm kind of really pleased and happy to be able to talk to John about the business. I know you farm, and now you run a business. Yeah, you can look at this way and tell me about the business.
Okay. Yeah, we started the Never Spill Spout about 15 years ago. It came out of my own farm because I'm farming mostly by myself, and I was filling up grain bins, and then sometimes there would be a spill because I didn't pay attention when it was full. So at the time I was looking for something on the market that would tell me when the grain bin is full, that attaches to the auger, and I couldn't find anything, so I built something for myself, and 1 year later, with some help from some friends and Ag Days, we were at a booth at Ag Days, had a prototype that was working for me for the summer, and with just that one prototype we sold 30 units the first time at Ag Days about 15 years ago.
Tell me, how does it work?
The principle of this no spill spout is very simple. There's a sensor in the auger spout itself at the end of the auger that goes into the grain bin. And then once the grain comes up to that level, then it pushes the sensor and gives an audio alarm. And that alarm, of course, tells the farmer the bin is full. They shut off the tailgate or the semi, and they run the auger empty. And then they, like I say, the bin is full, and they have an empty auger to move on to the next bin.
Then I also know that you're one of the speakers here at the seminars that they have on. Tell me a little bit about that, because it ties the two things together. You farm, but you also built something you needed, and now you take that and turn that into another business as you're now marketing it to others.
That's right. Of course, the main business is still the farm, and the presentation, or the purpose of the presentation, was sort of saying if anybody has any ideas, and I talk to people all the time that have ideas, but they don't really know how to market it. And one of the purposes then was to help people, you know, get a table at something like Ag Days and just stand there for a while and see what the feedback is. One of the titles of my presentation was 9 out of 10 things that I invented failed. So I've been kind of tinkering with a few things here and there, and it's really interesting. Even now I have different ideas. Sometimes I bring them along to the show and there's no response whatsoever. So, and that tells me fairly quickly, you know, this is not something that the market maybe needs. And the spout just sort of went the opposite way. People, you know, buy it. Nowadays, we have people that come back, they have a second and a third auger and they put it on there, or a neighbor of somebody that has one comes, they say, well, buy one. Our neighbor said we have to get one. And, you know, so it sort of developed from there.
When, as a farmer, I mean, there was a time, you know, you didn't have to do a lot of marketing, but at the same time, this is totally different. Now you got to get out to the farmers and make sure you convince them that this is something they need.
Yeah, of course, marketing grain is different than marketing a product. There's no question. But again, things like this, or the newspaper, farm newspapers, the you know, book and things like that. Once you're in there, you get lots of phone calls, and that's how one thing grows from another. We're also trying to market it in the United States, in North Dakota, and so on. We attend those trade shows sometimes too, but we don't have the critical mass going yet. Like in Saskatchewan and Manitoba and even Alberta, we are at most trade shows, either through us or through a dealer of ours, and people recognize the name. Nowadays at Brandon here, it's almost more, you know, people come back that have one, and yeah, so it's actually really nice getting feedback from farmers and that they like it.
Is it easy installation, and what's the general cost?
The cost is around $700. That's if it gets delivered to your yard, depending a little bit on the size. If it's a 10-inch or a 16-inch auger, at the farm show we have a little bit of a discount, and installation takes about 40 minutes. It's basically a auger spout that you install at the top, and then you run a wiring harness, that's all included, down to the bottom of the auger. Then there's an alarm box at the bottom of the auger. and then you plug it into the tractor electrical outlet. So this way there is no batteries, no remote, or no wireless. It's a very simple system. There's a test light that goes at the top of the auger. So by having that light there, we know that we have power going all the way up to the top of the auger. Because of course, if there would be a bad fuse and no test light, then you never know if the thing would be working or not. So by having that light there, we know that we have the power and the system should be working fine.
So who is all involved with you in the company? And tell me a little bit about your farm.
Well, this Never Spill Spout company is my wife and myself. Usually she is here at the trade show and does most of the marketing. She's much better at that than I am. And yeah, so it's sort of a little family business. And our daughter builds the sensor, which she does a really good job of. Some things are hired out, like the wiring harness gets made in an electrical shop in Winnipeg. And then we create some employment for some local neighbors, kids that sort of work on the spout, cut holes and assemble it and package it. So that's a little bit, it's a very small company. It's not like a farm, but it does add to our income. You can put a little bit of money aside, and yeah, that's how it's been developing over the last 15 years. Now we sold about 10,000 units altogether, and to me it looks like as long as people buy augers, they maybe will buy our spout. So far it looks very promising.
And as long as we're farming, farmers are going to need augers.
I think so. Yeah. So it looks promising right now. Thanks.
Very good, John Getter with the Never Spill Spout, and it's just a great thing to hear again. A farmer who I talked to years ago as a farmer, now showing off his product, selling his product, continuing to farm, as you heard, involving his family in the various aspects of the business, and I'm sure in the farm as well. So thanks again, John, and this is Harry Siemens from Manitoba Ag Days in Brandon 2019.